I've recently seen that it's becoming more and more popular to claim that Aduro is actually still unproven. We really don't know if the technology will work or not. Oh, maybe it will, maybe it won't. Isn't all what they have just patents and promises? And in this video, I'm going to show you that this is definitely not the case, that Aduro is already proven, and what exactly the future would look like for Aduro if they deliver on what they promise they will. So just to start out right, that Aduro's technology is already proven on a continuous scale. So all these claims that Aduro is still very speculative and comparable to other technologies which have just ideas and promises, this is definitely not Aduro. Even as early as about 2 years ago, the Aduro CEO was already claiming, based on operational results of a real prototype plant, that the CO2 footprint of the process is exceptionally low, which of course is very advantageous for if you want like government grants or to make a product more popular or to claim larger carbon reductions, that the technology is achieving less than 5% carbon loss to methane and char. And again, this was 2 years ago based on real results, not just promises. And again, by Aduro, by February 2024, they already had proof. So this was not like a theory or, from our math, it seems like it works. No, they literally did hundreds of real experiments on their R2 plant, which is a smaller, let's say like a small pilot plant where they had hundreds of test runs. Even by this point already, they had a 36-hour non-stop operation run included in that. So, I wouldn't say this is like super long-term non-stop run, but 36 hours already like weeds out a lot of the technologies that are like complete vaporware. So this is like real technology that actually works, and they showed they can get up to 95% conversion efficiency. Now, a lot of people criticize this number. Oh, this is like in best case conditions where they have like a clean stream of just a single plastic. Oh, how impressive is that? I mean, if you just look at the competition, even in best case scenarios, these technologies just cannot get over like 70%. That's just impossible for the vast majority of the competitors. Um, so yeah, this just shows me that people often just do like 10 minutes of due diligence. Oh, this technology is a scam because it has a lot of pumpers on social media. I'm not going to do any research, right? That's just stupid. Yeah. And you might claim, oh, this is the company is claiming these like 36 hours, and then they have like a small pilot plant or like an R2. This is all like just hypothesis. And there are, I'm gonna go into that later on, that they had like third parties reviewing the technology. Even besides that, many influencers and investors visited the plant and saw it with our own eyes. I personally didn't see it yet, but there are like lots of let's say early on investors that already traveled to their pilot plant or to their R2 plant and saw it. And I'm gonna go into it later on, but yeah, this is not just small influencers and investors that visited the plant. And what the whole hype about is about that, their pilot plant will finally show us whether the technology is real or not, or can be used in a commercial scale. But if you just look at the numbers, the pilot plant is planned to be about 10 kilograms per hour, while the R2, which was already fully operational like over 2 years ago, was 2 to 3 kilograms an hour. So it's not like a crazy jump where, we did it like on a tiny lab scale and now we're going to do it on a proper scale. No, it is like the R2 is pretty much just a small pilot plant already. And this is not what makes the pilot plant special. What makes the pilot plant actually special, and why it's going to be so impactful, because the real thing the NGP will test is how well they can do with off-the-shelf industrial parts. Because so far R2 was built pretty much with very specialized equipment that they like assembled specifically in that way so that it work, and they would have like get unique equipment. But the NGP will actually show whether they can do it with off-the-shelf industrial parts, which of course has the advantages of higher reliability, but especially these 2 points: predictable scaling and way lower capex. Right? If you can just buy off-the-shelf parts in large numbers, the capex is going to be lower because you don't need specialized metals that would stand like high heat, or you don't need like specially shaped pipes or special fittings or etc. And obviously another very big advantage is the predictable scaling. So this is why, for example, the company is not worried about the demo plant, which, as a reminder, will be 100 times the size of the pilot plant. So the pilot plant is about 10 kilograms per hour. The demo plant is planned to be 1,000 kilograms per hour approximately. So like, yeah, we're talking like a big upscaling year. And why the company is not worried is especially because of this predictable scaling, because they use off-the-shelf industrial parts. Well, all the scaling ratios been known for decades. Engineers know how to scale up a pilot chemical process into a larger size. So that's why the company and everyone who did like their particular due diligence is not worried that the demo plant or commercial plants, which are going to be like, let's say 400 times the size of the pilot plant, is like the, let's say the base of the commercial plant. So people are not worried because, if the NGP actually works, which we're close to finding out, then, it works with off-the-shelf industrial parts, and then scaling is just like, just any normal engineering task. There's nothing magical about it. And I talked about third-party validations being not just from small investors or influencers, but by big companies. And in the chemical industry, it doesn't really get larger than Shell and Total. Let's focus on Shell for now. So there have been only 98 graduates from Shell's Game Changer program in its history. So it's about from 2021 to, let's say, 2025, right? 2026 just started, and the program has definitely been slowing down a little bit. Most of these graduates have been in the early years, and Aduro was in 2025. So with Aduro, Shell really took its time. It took about 3 full years, and it was based mostly just on the R2 plant. And Shell in these 3 years, which, I might remind you how big of a deal it is for Shell, they're not going to claim like a company is successful when it's not, because their reputation is on the line, right? Like, imagine it would come out that Shell is just passing everyone and just not paying attention. Like, their reputation would be very damaged by that. So they took 3 years, right? Like, I think they know what they're doing. And they confirmed that the technology is not only legit, but commercially viable. Because this is what the Shell Game Changer program is all about. They test like new, exciting sounding technologies that are just based on, let's say, maybe a prototype or maybe even just an exciting idea. And they tested, can this technology be used in a commercially viable way? Or maybe can Shell imagine integrating this technology in their workflow? So coming now to Total Energies, and a common criticism I saw is like, if Aduro's technology is so great, why haven't they commissioned a commercial plant yet with Total Energies? Supposedly Total Energies is really excited and collaborating with them. Total Energies was the first collaborator of Aduro back in middle 24. And if the technology is so great, why are they dragging their feet and not doing a commercial plant? They must have realized it's a huge scam. It's not coming out, right? It's like what people are claiming. And, with Shell, Shell did a 3-year Game Changer program and supposedly it's good. So why didn't Shell just announce a commercial plant with them, right? Things are checking out. And, my response to that is a little bit cynical, but pretty simple. This is, the head of R&D integration with Total Energies pretty much. And he's very clearly stating that they are on a collaborative path with Aduro and they expect to demonstrate that they can industrialize their technology. Now, you have to read a little bit between the lines, but when people ask me why didn't they do a commercial plant with Aduro yet, with Total yet, or why are there no commercial agreements yet? I mean, you just have to, guys, this person is head of the R&D incubation portfolio of Total Energies, a $100 billion plus company. And, he's openly talking about that we're going to industrialize Aduro's technology. Guys, just turn on your head, turn on your brain. Just what do you think they imply by this, right? Now, they don't announce anything commercial yet, but it's my belief that the first commercial partner of Aduro will be Total Energies, right? I don't have any proof for that because it hasn't happened yet, obviously. But don't be surprised if one day you wake up and see news release that there's been some type of commercial agreement with Aduro, because I think this is the most likely going to be the first commercial client. In what specific manner the commercial agreement will be structured, I don't know. Will it be a joint venture? Will it be a licensing agreement? Will it be like some type of commercial something? They're going to build like 5 plants at once. They're just going to build one commercial plant. They're going to build whatever. I don't know, right? Obviously, no one knows. But again, I think this whole it's just stupid. And just a reminder, their head of R&D is working a 4-hour drive away from the future demo plant location. If you haven't seen it already, Aduro recently pretty much decided fully where their demo plant is going to be located, and it's going to be in the Netherlands. at the Brightlands Camelot campus because they have some personal history there, and it's just a very, very good infrastructure there. From a regulatory perspective, Netherlands is like top tier. The location there has a lot of other companies from all over the world who are looking for green solutions for recycling, both for commercial purposes and from a PR perspective, where being green is like good PR, good marketing. Yeah, so I think very interesting that now, before then, Shell and Total would have to travel to Canada because this is where their their R2 plant was. And the pilot plant would also be in Canada, but the demo plant is going to be in the Netherlands, which is close to the office of the main office of Total. And for the question why Shell and Total haven't announced a commercial plant yet, well, these are massive companies, and they move very slowly, and the chemical industry is a very slow moving industry where change is very slow because these are like very high caps. Typically in the chemical industry, all these machines are like very expensive, so you have to be really sure that what you're doing is going to be profitable over the long run. And obviously because even though this is like the head of R&D incubation, which Frederick, he still has like higher ups that he has to justify their decisions to, and he can't just say, oh, this new like startup, we're just gonna spend hundreds of millions of dollars on them to integrate their technology. They have to really first make sure that the technology actually works and be really confident in that. But I believe like once it becomes risk enough for them, they make an aggressive move because you might not. I mean, yeah, I know that Total Energies has a guidelines that by 2030 they want to recycle 30% of their plastics produced, or said differently, they want 30% of their plastics produced be circular, so coming from a recycled source. I might remind you guys that this is only 4 years away, and Total is really not even close to hitting that target yet. So what technology do you think will they use to get to that 30% by 2030? For me, it's very difficult to see anything other than Aduro being capable of, quick scale up with reliable technology that, just works. And it's going to be a very interesting couple of years in the future, I think, because Total is really, they have to do a big move soon here. And with the words that, the head of R&D integration is talking about Aduro, I think I wouldn't be surprised to see like some massive announcement in 2026 and 2027 at the very latest. And also another claim I saw that, Aduro promises things that are not real. They possibly can't be true. If they were true, Shell and Total would have already discovered it on their own. And, if you really dive into the patents, we don't know exactly, how the technology works in full detail, like exact temperatures, exact times, exact configurations. We don't know that, but looking at the patents, it's very clear that it's not a cure for aging, a world peace promise that is like relying on like sci-fi outlandish magic technology. No, it's like straight up chemistry that's just applied in a very smart and unique way, and they've put like over 10 years of trial and error into this until they figured out exactly how to do it. Now obviously they started with heavy oil, where it's a little bit easier actually to do that because of several reasons, but I think that's the way they discovered it, because heavy oils have often quite a lot of metals in them, and metals are the key of how Aduro's technology works. So just very simply, it's a 3-step chemical process. Obviously, it's not as simple as I make it sound. Obviously, in execution, there are a lot of like fine tuning of which temperatures exactly, which pressures, how it's configured, but from a chemistry, it's not that difficult, especially if I break it down like very simple terms, even though they might be not 100% correct. But in very simple terms, they use metal catalysts, which is like mostly iron, but they also use nickel, molybdenum, or cobalt. And they use those catalysts to cut the molecular bonds of the plastic. Then they have organic hydrogen donors, which is, for example, like paper, glycerol, or ethanol, and they create the hydrogen radicals. This is pretty much, free-floating hydrogen, let's just say, just in very, very simple terms. And then because Aduro's technology is hydrochemolytic technology, they use water as their, let's say, main agent that does all the work. The water transports the hydrogen radicals to the broken plastics molecules and hydrogenates them. And if you've been with the story for a little bit longer, then you know this is a very big strength of Aduro, that their output product is already hydrogenated, because for most other competitor products, the output is not hydrogenated, which means it has to be hydrogenated, which means you have to generate hydrogen and then hydrogenate it. And in other technologies, it's a separate step that's very expensive and quite annoying to do, and makes it commercially like dubious, where you can actually make a profit and build a cheap plant. And as a result, the product is hydrogenated. It doesn't have all the Aduro's technology is also pretty good at that. If your input is contaminated, that the output is not contaminated, because like, for example, like pyrolysis, which is like the largest competitor, if your input is dirty, your output is going to be dirty. That's in general how it works, and they have to clean it up after the fact. But Aduro's technology is so that, let's say all the, if you just look at this simple, 3-step process, it seems pretty obvious why this works, right? Because we attack only plastics here, so only the plastics gets broken. All the dirtiness or the dirty stuff is like not impacted by that, and then we have the hydrogen that's hydrogenated, and and we also saw it in reality. It's not just a theory. We also saw that Aduro's output, so in this case they produced naphtha and they plugged it straight into a steam cracker, which is a plant that produces plastics from naphtha, very simply said. And Aduro already showed that this actually works in real life, that they can take their end product, they don't have to do literally any after treatment to it, and they can straight produce new plastic. This makes Aduro unique, and this is what makes it, for example, such an amazing partner for companies like Total Energies. And, I might ramble a little bit more, but it's just so exciting how different Aduro is from all the other technologies, and that people are literally blind to it, right? They can not only produce naphtha, which it seems likely that this might be like their main product, obviously, because if you recycle plastics, you kind of want to turn it into more plastic to have circularity, so the companies can fulfill both like marketing mandates, internal mandates of the companies, government mandates, etc. But they also have the option to turn it into diesel or gasoline, which is an option. I have a video where I was like surprised with carbon credits and all the whole systems, how you can like turn quite a lot of money by doing this. But if they're going to work, for example, like with Total Energies quite closely, they'll probably focus on the plastic. So sometimes makes Aduro really exciting. They can really pick and choose what they want to produce. They don't have like pyrolysis oil as output and that's it. I think this is very exciting, right? Because it gives us so much flexibility, so much downside protection. Even if, let's say, the thing with Total Energies doesn't work out, they can just shift to like purely on their own produce like carbon credits and like green biofuel, and it's going to work as well, or do something else. So yeah. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It's currently the best way to support me, because I don't take any money right now. So if you want to see more videos in the future, just subscribe. It takes you 2 seconds and it makes me happy. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time.